The sun was burning hot that summer of 1987 in the small village of Rampur. For 3 months, not a single drop of rain had fallen from the sky. The fields were cracked and dry, looking like broken puzzle pieces spread across the land. The river that used to flow through the village had become nothing more than a thin line of mud. Mira sat outside her small mud house, watching her little brother Ravi cough again and again. His lips were dry and cracked, and his eyes looked tired. Their baby sister Priya was crying weakly in their mother's arms, too weak even to cry properly. The water pot in their house had been empty for 2 days now. "Mama, I'm so thirsty," Ravi whispered, his voice barely coming out. Their mother, Kamala, looked at Mira with eyes full of worry and fear. She had been trying to find water everywhere, but the well meant for their community had dried up completely last week. Mira was only 19 years old, but she had been taking care of her family since their father died 3 years ago. She worked in the fields during harvest time and cleaned houses to earn a few coins. She was known in the village as a girl who never caused trouble and always followed the rules. But today was different. Today, she watched her siblings getting weaker and weaker, and she couldn't just sit there doing nothing. "I know where there's water," she said quietly to her mother. Kamala's eyes widened with fear. She knew exactly what Mira was thinking. "No, Beta, you cannot go there. You know what will happen if they catch you." The upper caste well was just a 10-minute walk from their house. It was always full of clean, fresh water. The wealthy families of the village used it daily for drinking, cooking, and even watering their gardens. But for people like Mira's family, even looking at that well was considered wrong. "But Mama, look at them," Mira said, pointing to her siblings. "Ravi can barely stand up. Priya hasn't eaten anything because you don't have milk. What else can I do?" That night, when everyone in the village was sleeping, Mira took 2 large clay pots and quietly walked toward the forbidden well. The moon was bright, and she could see the well clearly. Her heart was beating so fast she thought everyone in the village might hear it. She had never been so close to the upper caste area before. The houses here were bigger, painted white, with beautiful gardens, even in this terrible drought. Some families here still had green plants growing because they had enough water. Mira reached the well and looked around. Everything was quiet. She tied the rope to her pot and slowly lowered it down. The sound of the pot touching the water seemed so loud in the silence. She quickly pulled it up, filled both pots, and started walking back home. But her luck ran out. Just as she reached the main road, "Hey, what are you doing here?" Mira's blood turned cold. Behind her stood Mohan, the son of the village headman. He was known for being cruel and always looking for ways to cause trouble for poor families. I was just," Mira tried to speak, but her voice was shaking. "You were stealing water from our well," Mohan shouted loud enough to wake up half the village. "Do you know what you've done? You've broken the most important rule of our village." Within minutes, people started coming out of their houses. Some were angry, some were shocked, and some looked at Mira with pity. But nobody spoke up for her. "This is what happens when these people forget their place," said Mrs. Sharma, one of the wealthy women. "First they take our water, then what's next?" Mira stood there holding her water pots, feeling smaller and smaller as more people gathered around her. She wanted to explain that her siblings were dying of thirst, that she had no choice. But she knew nobody would listen. "Take her to the panchayat tomorrow," Mohan declared. "The elders will decide what to do with her." As Mira walked back to her house, followed by angry whispers and pointing fingers, she knew her life had changed forever. She had tried to save her family, but now she might have destroyed them all. Her mother was waiting for her at the door, tears streaming down her face. "What have you done, Beta?" she whispered. "I got water for Ravi and Priya," Mira said simply. They needed it that night. As her siblings drank the water and finally stopped coughing, Mira lay awake thinking about what would happen the next day. She had heard stories about what the village council did to people who broke their rules. Some were made to leave the village forever. Others were punished in ways that made their whole families suffer. But looking at her little brother sleeping Peacefully for the first time in days, she knew she would do it again. Some things were more important than rules. Some things were more important than fear. The next morning came too soon. Word had spread throughout the village about what Mira had done. People gathered in the main square, some curious, some angry, some just wanting to see what would happen. Mira walked to the big banyan tree where the village council met, her head held high. She was scared, but she wasn't ashamed. She had done what any loving sister would do. She had chosen her family's lives over society's rules, and now she would face whatever punishment they decided to give her. The bullock cart bumped along the dusty road, and Mira felt every stone beneath the wheels. She sat in the back with her small cloth bundle, which contained everything she owned in the world, two old saris, a wooden comb her father had made, and a small photo of her family. Her hands were tied, not with rope, but with fear and uncertainty about what was waiting for her. The village council had made their decision quickly. Thaka Rajesh, the head of the panchayat, had smiled coldly as he announced her fate. This girl needs to learn her place, he had said. We will send her to Arjun Singh in the next district. He recently lost his wife and needs someone to work in his house. She will serve him and his family for the rest of her life. This will teach her and others like her to respect our traditions. Mira's mother had cried so hard that day. My daughter, what will happen to you in a stranger's house? She had whispered. But there was nothing anyone could do. The decision was final. Now, as the car approached the big iron gates of Arjun Singh's estate, Mira felt her heart sink. The house was enormous, painted white with red tiles on the roof. Beautiful gardens surrounded it, with colorful flowers and green grass that looked impossible in this drought. Tall trees provided shade, and she could hear the sound of water from a fountain somewhere inside. This is where rich people live, she thought to herself, and I'm going to be their servant for life. The cart stopped at the main entrance, and the driver, an old man named Kaka, looked at her with pity. Don't worry, child, he said quietly. I've heard that Arjun Singh is different from other landlords. Maybe your life won't be as hard as you think. But Mira couldn't believe that, in her experience. Wealthy people were always cruel to poor people. That's just how the world worked. A tall man came out of the house as she climbed down from the cart. He was round 35 years old, with kind eyes and a gentle face. He wore a simple white kurta and didn't look like the harsh master she had expected. Are you Mira? He asked softly. She nodded, unable to speak. Her throat felt dry, and her hands were shaking. My name is Arjun Singh. Please, come inside. Mira followed him, expecting to be taken to the servants' quarters at the back of the house. Instead, he led her through the main door into a beautiful sitting room with comfortable chairs and colorful carpets on the floor. She had never seen such a lovely room in her life. Please, sit down, Arjun said. Pointing to a chair, Mira looked at him in shock. Sir, I can't sit there. That's not proper. I should sit on the floor. Why? Arjun asked, genuinely confused. It's just a chair. Please, make yourself comfortable. Slowly, carefully. Mira sat on the edge of the chair, ready to jump up if someone scolded her. But Arjun just smiled and disappeared into another room. A few minutes later, he returned with a tray containing 2 cups of tea and some biscuits. He placed 1 cup in front of her and sat down with the other. Mira stared at the teacup like it was a snake. Sir, I don't understand. Why are you giving me tea? Because you've had a long journey, and you must be tired and thirsty, Arjun replied simply. Please, drink it. But sir, I'm here to serve you. I shouldn't be drinking tea with you. What will people say? Arjun leaned back in his chair and looked at her carefully. Mira, let me tell you something. I know why you're here. I know what the panchayat told you, but I want you to understand something very important. I don't see you as a servant. Mira's eyes widened. What do you mean, sir? I mean that what you did in your village, taking water to save your siblings, that wasn't a crime. That was love. That was courage. No one should be punished for trying to save their family. Tears started flowing down Mira's face. For weeks, everyone had been telling her she was wrong. that she had done something terrible. But this stranger, this wealthy man, was saying she had done the right thing. I studied in Delhi for many years, Arjun continued. I learned that all people are equal, regardless of where they're born or what family they come from. I came back to this village to help change things, to make life better for everyone. But sir, the village council said I have to work for you as punishment. The village council thinks you're here as my servant, Arjun said with a small smile. But I think you're here as my guest. You can stay in this house, eat good food, and if you want, I can arrange for you to learn reading and writing. Mira couldn't believe what she was hearing. It felt like a dream, too good to be true. Why would you do this for me? She asked. Because everyone deserves respect and kindness, Arjun said. Because I believe that how we treat others shows who we really are, and because I think you're a brave young woman who deserves a chance at a better life. That night, as Mira lay in a comfortable bed in a clean room, not in the servants' quarters, but in the main house, she stared at the ceiling and wondered if this was really happening. For the first time in months, she felt hope growing in her heart. Maybe, just maybe, her life was about to change in ways she had never imagined. 6 months had passed since Mira arrived at Aryan's house, and her life had changed in ways she never thought possible. Every morning, she woke up in her own room, ate breakfast at the same table as Arjun, and then spent her day learning things she had only dreamed about before. Today we'll learn about numbers, said Pandit Gopal, the village teacher who came to the house 3 times a week. At first, he had been shocked when Arjun asked him to teach a girl from a lower caste. But Arjun had convinced him by paying double his usual fee and explaining that education should be for everyone. Mira was like a dry sponge soaking up water. She learned the alphabet in just 2 weeks, started reading simple books within a month, and now she could write her own name beautifully. But what amazed everyone was how quickly she understood numbers and calculations. She's brilliant, Pandit Gopal told Arjun one day. I've never seen anyone learn so fast. She can solve math problems that take my other students months to understand. Arjun smiled with pride. He had seen Mira's intelligence from the very beginning, and now she was proving him right. But life wasn't always easy. The other servants in the house, especially Kamala the cook, didn't like how Arjun treated Mira. They whispered among themselves about how wrong it was for a girl like her to eat with the master and sleep in the main house. She's getting too proud, Kamala said to Ramu, the gardener. She thinks she's become equal to him just because he's being kind to her. Mira could hear their whispers, but she tried not to let them bother her. She had learned that not everyone would accept the changes in her life, and that was okay. She was grateful for what she had. One day, Arjun asked her to help him with the account books for his land. You're so good with numbers, he said. I could use your help to keep track of the money coming in and going out. Mira was nervous at first. These were important papers with thousands of rupees written on them. But as she started working, she noticed something strange. Sir, I think there's a mistake here, she said, pointing to a page. The numbers don't match. Someone has been writing wrong amounts. Arjun looked at the papers carefully. Mira was right. His manager, Lala Ram, had been stealing money from him for months, changing the numbers to hide what he was doing. You saved me thousands of rupees, Arjun told her. From now on, you'll handle all the accounts. Word spread quickly through both villages about what was happening at Aryan's house. The upper caste families were angry and shocked. They couldn't understand why a man from their community would treat a lower caste girl with such respect. He's lost his mind, said Thakar Rajesh, the same man who had sent Mira there as punishment. First he makes her live in his main house. Then he gives her education, and now she's handling his money. What's next? Some families even stopped talking to Arjun completely. They wouldn't invite him to their weddings or festivals. They said he was bringing shame to their community. But Arjun didn't care. He had made his choice, and he was happy with it. On the other side, Mira's own community was watching with amazement and hope. Her mother, Kamala, would walk to the edge of the village every week just to catch a glimpse of her daughter when she came to visit. Look how healthy she looks, Kamala would tell the other women. Her face is bright, her clothes are clean, and she can read and write now. Maybe there's hope for our children too. But not everyone in Mira's community was happy either. Some of the older people thought she was forgetting where she came from. "She's getting too big for her place," said one old woman. "What will happen when he gets tired of her? She won't be able to come back to our life after living like a rich person." As time went on, Mira noticed that her feelings toward Arjun were changing. In the beginning, she had been grateful to him for his kindness. Then she had respected him for his wisdom and fairness. But now, something deeper was growing in her heart. She looked forward to their evening conversations when they would sit in the garden and talk about books, about the world beyond their villages, about dreams and hopes for the future. She noticed how his eyes lit up when he spoke about making things better for poor people. She saw how gentle he was with the children who came to the house, how he never raised his voice even when he was angry, and sometimes when he smiled at her across the dinner table. Her heart would beat faster, and she would feel confused about what was happening to her. One evening, as they sat watching the sunset, Arjun said something that made her realize she wasn't alone in these feelings. "Mira, you've changed my life in ways I never expected," he said quietly. "When you came here, I thought I was helping you, but now I realize you've been helping me too. You've shown me what real courage looks like. You've brought joy back into this house." Mira felt her cheeks grow warm. "Sir, You don't need to call me sir anymore," Arjun said softly. "We're friends now, aren't we?" That night, as Mira lay in her bed, she knew that something beautiful and dangerous was happening between them. She was falling in love with a man who was supposed to be her master, a man from a different world, a man who could never be hers according to the rules of society. But her heart didn't care about society's rules. Her heart only knew that she had found someone who saw her as an equal, someone who valued her mind and her spirit, someone who made her feel like she was worth something. The question was, what would they do about it? The rain came suddenly that evening, the first real rain in over a year. Mira stood on the terrace watching the drops fall, feeling like the whole world was being washed clean. She had been living in Aryan's house for almost 2 years now, and her life had become something she never could have imagined. "Beautiful, isn't it?" came a voice behind her. She turned to see Arjun approaching, his hair slightly wet from the rain. Over these months, the formal distance between them had slowly disappeared. They had become friends, sharing thoughts and dreams like equals. "I was just thinking about my family," Mira said. "They must be so happy to see this rain. The crops will grow again." "You miss them," Arjun said, not as a question but as a statement. "Every day. But I also know that I could never go back to the life I had before. You've given me education, respect, and hope. How can I give that up?" They stood in comfortable silence, watching the rain. But Mira could feel that Arjun wanted to say something important. "Mira," he said finally, his voice serious. "I need to tell you something that I've been thinking about for months." She turned to face him, her heart starting to beat faster. "When you first came here, I thought I was saving you, but somewhere along the way, you started saving me too. You brought light back into this house. You made me remember what it feels like to be happy." Mira felt tears forming in her eyes. She had hoped for this moment, but she had also feared it. "I know this is wrong according to society," Arjun continued. "I know people will be angry. I know it will cause problems for both of us, but I can't pretend anymore. I love you, Mira. I want to spend my life with you." The words hung in the air between them like the raindrops, beautiful and dangerous at the same time. "I love you too," Mira whispered. "But Arjun, you know what this means. Your family will never accept me. My community will think I'm betraying them. The whole village will be against us." "I know," Arjun said, taking her hands in his. "But I also know that some things are more important than what other people think. Love is one of those things. Equality is another. If we don't stand up for what we believe in, how will anything ever change?" That night, they made the decision that would change everything. They would get married. The next morning, Arjun wrote a letter to his family in the city, telling them about his decision. The reply came back within a week, and it was even worse than they had expected. "You are no longer a son," his elder brother wrote. "If you marry this girl, you will lose everything: your property, your family name, your place in society. We will make sure that no one in our community ever speaks to you again." At the same time, news of their plan spread through both villages like wildfire. People couldn't believe what they were hearing. "Have you lost your mind?" Thakar Rajesh shouted when he came to confront Arjun. "We sent that girl to you as punishment, not as a bride. You're bringing shame to all of us." "The only shame," Arjun replied calmly, "isn't a system that judges people by their birth instead of their character." But the pressure was coming from all sides. Even some people in Mira's own community were upset. "She's forgotten where she comes from," said one woman. "Now she thinks she's too good for us." "What will happen to her when he gets tired of her?" asked another. "Rich men always abandon poor women eventually." Mira's mother, Kamala, was torn between joy and fear. She was happy that her daughter had found love, but she was terrified of what might happen to her. "Beta," she said during one of Mira's visits, "are you sure about this? Once you marry him, there's no going back. If something goes wrong, you won't be able to come home." "Mama," Mira said, holding her mother's hands, "I've learned that home isn't a place. It's being with people who love and respect you. Arjun sees me as an equal. He values my thoughts and my dreams. Isn't that what every woman deserves?" The threats started coming soon after. Anonymous letters warning them to change their minds. Stones thrown at the house windows at night. People refusing to work on Aryan's land or sell him supplies from their shops. "We can still stop this," Mira said one evening, watching Arjun count the money he was losing because of the boycott. "I don't want you to suffer because of me." "Do you want to stop?" Arjun asked. "No," Mira admitted, "but I also don't want to be the reason you lose everything." "You're not making me lose anything," Arjun said firmly. "I'm choosing what matters most to me. I'm choosing love over fear, equality over tradition, and happiness over what other people think." 3 months later, on a bright morning in spring, they had their wedding. It was simple but beautiful. Pandit Gopal, the teacher who had educated Mira, agreed to perform the ceremony despite pressure from other villagers. Only a few people attended. Some of Aryan's friends from the city who supported his decision, Mira's immediate family, and a handful of villagers who believed in their love. As they took their wedding vows, Arjun made a promise that brought tears to everyone's eyes. "I promise to always treat you as my equal," he said. "I promise to support your dreams and help you achieve anything you want in life. I promise to stand with you against anyone who tries to make you feel small." Mira's vows were just as powerful. "I promise to use the education and opportunities you've given me to help others. I promise to be your partner in making the world a better place. I promise to love you not just as my husband, but as my best friend." That day, as they became husband and wife, they knew they had started something bigger than just a marriage. They had started a revolution of love and equality that would change many lives. But they also knew that the real challenges were just beginning. Society doesn't change overnight, and those who benefit from unfair systems don't give up easily. Still, as they looked into each other's eyes that day, they knew they had made the right choice. Love had conquered fear, and they were ready to face whatever came next, together. 20 years had passed since that rainy evening when Arjun first told Mira he loved her. Now, as she sat in her office at the community center she had built, Mira looked back on a life that had exceeded even her wildest dreams. The early years of their marriage had been difficult. Many people in both villages had refused to accept their union. Some shopkeepers wouldn't sell them groceries. Former friends crossed the street to avoid greeting Arjun. Children threw stones at their house and called them names. But slowly, things began to change. It started with education. Mira had convinced Arjun to open a school on their property, a school that would welcome children from all backgrounds. At first, only the poorest families sent their children, grateful for any chance at education. Every child deserves to learn. Mira would tell parents who were hesitant, "Your daughter is just as smart as any rich man's son. Give her a chance to prove it." The school started with just 10 students sitting under a big mango tree. Mira taught them reading and writing, while Arjun taught them about the world beyond their village. Within 5 years, they had 50 students and had built proper classrooms. But the real change came when these children started succeeding. Ravi Kumar, a boy from a poor family, became the first person from his community to pass the high school exams. Priya Sharma, whose parents cleaned other people's houses, got admission to a college in the city. See what happens when you give people a chance, Mira would say to anyone who would listen. Talent doesn't depend on which family you're born into. Word of their school spread to other villages. Parents started traveling from far away to get their children admitted. Government officials came to visit and were impressed by what they saw. This is how education should be, said the district collector during one visit. Every child learning together, regardless of their background. The success of their school gave Mira confidence to start other projects. She convinced Arjun to build a health clinic that would treat everyone equally. She started a program to teach women skills like sewing and handicrafts so they could earn their own money. Independence is the most important thing, she would tell the women who came to her classes. When you can earn your own money, no one can control you. But perhaps the most important change was in the relationships between different communities. Children who had grown up together in their school didn't see each other as different. They saw each other as friends. Why do adults make such a big deal about who our parents are? Asked little Amit, whose father was a wealthy farmer, to his best friend Deepak, whose mother worked as a maid. We're just kids who like to play cricket. Together, this new generation gave Mira hope that the world was really changing. Her own family life had brought her immense joy. She and Arjun had 3 children, 2 daughters and a son. They had raised them to see all people as equal, to judge others by their actions rather than their birth. Your mother, Arjun would tell their children, is the strongest person I know. She turned punishment into power, obstacles into opportunities. Their eldest daughter, Kavya, became a doctor and returned to work in their clinic. Their second daughter, Naya, became a teacher and helped expand their school system. Their son, Rohit, studied law and fought cases for poor people who couldn't afford expensive lawyers. We're continuing your work, Ma, Kavya told her mother. Everything you and Papa started. We'll make it even bigger. But perhaps the most satisfying moment for Mira came when she received a letter from the government. They wanted to honor her with a national award for her work in education and social change. From a girl who was punished for taking water to save her siblings, the letter read, to a woman who has changed thousands of lives through education and compassion, your story is an inspiration to all of India. At the awards ceremony in New Delhi, Mira stood on the stage wearing a simple cotton sari, looking out at hundreds of people who had come to honor her. The President of India himself placed the medal around her neck. Your journey, he said, shows us that true change comes from ordinary people who refuse to accept unfair treatment. You have proven that love and education are more powerful than hatred and ignorance. In her acceptance speech, Mira spoke about the importance of treating everyone with dignity. I was once offered to a man as punishment, she said, but that man chose to treat me like a queen. He taught me that every person has value, regardless of where they come from. Today, I want to tell every young girl listening, you are not limited by your birth. You are only limited by your dreams. Back in her village, the awards ceremony was broadcast on television. People who had once criticized her now watched with pride. Even some of her harshest critics had to admit that she had done something remarkable. Look at our Mira, said one elderly woman to her neighbor. She's brought honor to our entire district. That evening, as Mira sat in her garden with Arjun, watching their grandchildren play, she thought about how far they had come. Do you ever regret it? She asked him. All the trouble we faced, all the people who turned against us? Arjun smiled and took her hand. How can I regret the best decision I ever made? Look at what we've built together. Look at the lives we've changed. Look at our children and grandchildren who will never know a world where people are judged by their birth. Sometimes I think about that scared girl who arrived at your house 23 years ago, Mira said. She could never have imagined this life. That girl had courage. Arjun replied. She risked everything to save her family. She just needed someone to believe in her potential. As the sun set over their village, Mira reflected on the journey that had brought her here. She had started as a victim of an unfair system, but she had become a force for change. She had been offered as punishment, but she had been treated like a queen, and more importantly, she had learned to treat herself like one. Her story had become a source of hope for countless others. Young girls who felt trapped by society's expectations would hear about her and realize that they too could change their lives. Parents who had never considered educating their daughters would think of her and change their minds. The real victory, Mira often said in her speeches, is not in changing your own life. It's in changing the system so that the next generation doesn't have to face the same struggles. Today, the school she started with 10 students under a mango tree has become a network of 50 schools. Across 3 states, the health clinic has grown into a hospital. The women's training program has helped thousands of women become financially independent. But more than all of this, Mira had proved something important, that love and respect are more powerful than hatred and tradition, that education and opportunity can overcome any obstacle, that one person's courage can change the world for countless others. The girl who was once offered as punishment had indeed become a queen, not just in her own life, but in the lives of everyone she had touched.